between Donald Trump, who is, I would say, like we discussed this on the show before. Donald Trump's sexual orientation is probably ace, but like is, on the spectrum, I think basically heterosexual, but all of his interests are like incredibly fruity.
Yeah.
Like, he's like the straightest man in existence who he is the straightest man with the most love for Andrew Lloyd Webber that like has ever existed. And then contrast that with not just Josh Hawley, but like the entire spate of like young new GOP contenders, and they're all trying to be the exact opposite as hard as possible. I mean, Trump has the authentic interest and personality of like a gay man in his 70s, whereas Josh Hawley, like try as he might, like he cannot create the persona of like a mighty man of valor, and like that's a problem for the GOP because like it seems like most of the young people in the GOP, like they come across as really fruity when they try to be like the more masculine they try to appear, the fruitier they seem. Whereas Trump, the fruitier he sounds, like the more alpha he comes across. It's kind of brilliant.
Well, yeah, because he owns it. Like, yeah, I like Torch songs and Andrew Lloyd Webber. He's the guy who had the total oblivion, and it all just comes from like a narcissism that is like pure as a diamond, and elevates him above the common run of humanity. He went in front of, as I've said before, because I can never get over it when I think about it. He went in front of a bunch of hooting West Virginia coal miners and did a tight five about how hairspray doesn't work as well as it used to. These guys are all deeply insecure about their masculinity and are trying to compensate for something, and as such, they go out on a limb of trying to assert this stuff and say these phrases, and the more you can hear the tremble in their voice.
Yeah, and we've talked about like Ron DeSantis. I don't think Ron DeSantis doesn't really have the traditional gay voice, but he does have the annoying bitch voice.
Yes,
like
it's sugar, man.
Yeah, and to that end, like I know we've been pretty hard on Mr. DeSantis, but I thought it'd be necessary to maybe give the other side of like make the case for Ron DeSantis, and I just wanted to share this briefly with you. This is from Mark Penn, writing in the Wall Street Journal yesterday. Headline: "Don't count Ron DeSantis out." So this is former Clinton advisor, what's his name, Mark Penn, making the case for Ron DeSantis. Like let's see if this is their best shot here. Let's take a look at this. He writes, "The DeSantis ship is clearly listing and must right itself. I wouldn't normally give advice to a Republican candidate, but someone has to stop Donald Trump from regaining the presidency, and I wouldn't count on President Biden to do it given his low job approval rating and widespread doubts about his fitness. Mr. Trump leads Mr. Biden in the Real Clear Politics polling advantage. A Trump-Biden rematch is a risky proposition, and with the Democrats consolidated around Mr. Biden, the only way to avoid it is through the Republican primary. To get back in the game, Mr. DeSantis has to put cultural issues to the side and run on character, competence, and common sense. He has the strong character of a family man who cares for his wife, a cancer survivor. I mean, I would like to make. I would like a candidate who makes like maybe the Newt Gingrich style character of leaving your wife when she has cancer. But I mean,
you can see why Mark Penn has been so successful. You really get what he's saying here. It's really smart. Ron DeSantis has to lead with his amazing personality.
Yeah, but it's what's on his character CV? Like he took care of his wife when she had cancer. It's like that's a good thing to do. Don't get me wrong. That's an act of love and certainly speaks to his character. But like it's a low bar to clear. Like not leaving your cancer-stricken wife is like if you're putting that on your character resume. I think it's a little threadbare. He says here, the energetic competence of an accomplished governor and the common sense to campaign on such issues as a balanced budget and a workable immigration system.
That's right. It is 1996.
Yeah, I know, right? This is like the Dole campaign.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
What do you guys hear? Clearly, Mr. Trump knows Mr. DeSantis is winning older voters and has decided that hitting the governor on Social Security can erode his base. Mr. DeSantis has to defend himself and prove that Mr. Trump is a big spender who will drive more inflation and increase the national debt, and that he fumbled the COVID-19 response by pushing lockdowns. See, like, okay, DeSantis, like the only thing that we talked about this, the only area in which Trump could conceivably be vulnerable to a Republican primary voting population is on COVID and the vaccine and lockdowns and like the early days when he was for it. But the thing is, in the early days, Ron DeSantis was for all like masks and lockdowns too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like DeSantis could go hard on the vaccine, but I mean, he was implicated in that too because he was like, you know, like they all were touting it when it first came out.
Yeah,
but the idea, like
under the fucking Trump administration, it was the example of them doing a good job.
Yeah, DeSantis was bragging about like, you know, making it so you could get your vaccine in Publix and shit. Like and there are tons of pictures of him, you know, wearing a mask, looking like Paddington. No one's no one's in the clear on this, you know. Every elected Republican outside of like, I don't know, like Thomas Massey or someone. You've got at least some pictures of them in masks. You got them doing something.
It's interesting to imagine what though would have happened if Trump had been president. He'd won in 2020, and then they had to do a vaccination program, you know, with the population that was already at that point turning against them among Republicans. With how they would have squared that, I think most of them probably would have just eventually been like, "Oh, that's fine."
Yeah,
I think it could have been a real weird fracture point in the GOP, but yeah, DeSantis I don't think can, because he was drawing a contrast with, you know, some of his news cycle victories that he had like a year or so ago, but nobody remembers that. All you're talking about now is a campaign where both sides can show the other one, in a mask or talking about lockdowns or vaccines. And so nothing else matters.
And DeSantis, like, no matter what he does, he faces the same problem, which is the more people see him, the less they like him. It's an impossible trap for him to get out of. He's just, you know, how many, I don't think endorsements are really that important, but it does tell me something that, you know, he'll go and meet with some legislator or someone, and he won't even have gotten out of the building, and the guy instantly endorses Trump. There's just something so uniquely off-putting and detestable about him. Like, just no one actually likes him. I am more interested in what is Josh Hawley doing? what is you know, last week we talked about you know, who is the RFK campaign for? Who's the Marianne campaign for? What is anything Josh Hawley doing? Well, who's that for? Because we know this is a guy with presidential ambitions, but like, what route is that running through?
Well, it feels like it's just fully internet poisoned.
Yeah. Because like he has a new book out called Manhood or Reclaiming Manhood or something like that. Might be interested to read that for the show. I'm sure it's funny as hell. But like the conference he was speaking at, like it's not just about like it is totally internet brain, because like the problem with manhood is not like, like, you know, men need to be fathers or like pay more attention to their kids or, you know, work to support their families. His pitch on reclaiming manhood is just stop jacking off to internet porn. Like that's a big part of his pitch here.
Retention.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to see a promo that he did for the, you know, mighty valorous special men of victory rally.
The mighty boss tones of victory.
He said something like, I'm so excited. This is the biggest men's Christian conference in the world. So I guess masculinity is going to be his issue, which really that presents its own problems, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I want to go back to the other thing he said about like DeSantis needs to stop being like a culture warrior and start talking about that Mr. Trump is basically like increased the national debt. It's like, Felix, you're right. Like,
they love that.
Is this 1992? Like,
oh my God.
That works against Democrats and only as like a package of a greater indictments of the Democrats. Everybody knows that deficits don't matter under Republicans, including more than anyone Republican voters.
Well, the deficit would be better than the fucking national debt. You might as well just declare the campaign over now. Like if that's what he's going with, it's fucking over. Nothing. Nothing.
Well, listen to that.
The national fucking debt. Are you Ron Paul in 2007? What the fuck is this?
It's not getting people in the streets. It's not getting people storming capitals. That's for sure.
And like, he's pot committed at this point. He can't just like repurpose himself into being like, I'm for sane national government and a balanced checkbook, when like the only juice that you've been able to squeeze thus far is about, like a demonized
hollering about the gender ideology.
Yeah, gay and trans people.
He can't do that. He can't do any of that. I mean, he's uniquely weak on everything. And by that I mean like the success he's seen, as governor, which is different than running a presidential campaign, obviously. The success he's seen is just, passing all these laws and these signing statements and executive orders that fit with like whatever conservative cultural issue of the week is. But when people actually see him past the headlines, when national voters see him, he doesn't come off as a guy who's necessarily fighting for everyone. He just comes off as completely mean and spiteful. And even to people who have the same like shitty opinions he does, he's just a completely joyless, humorless person with no positive characteristics.
He's very nasty.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like he's fighting for something. It just seems like he enjoys doing this because he enjoys inflicting pain on others.
Yeah, and he's not a happy warrior.
Yeah, even to people who like again have the exact same positions, that is still a fucking turnoff. Like Trump isn't necessarily a happy warrior, but there's some like humor there. There's some fun.
Yeah, he can bust balls. He chops it up.
Yeah, like as we saw in the Andrew Lloyd Webber clip.
Yeah, as we just saw.
Dude, like he was so happy. Like that's the only time Trump ever like betrays any feeling of joy or like any human feelings at all, is when he's just like when I saw the chandelier at Phantom, took my breath away. But like similar to how I think for both Democrats and Republicans, the best way to deal with like COVID on the campaign trail is just to pretend it never happened. It's just like don't make it an issue at all. And I sort of feel like last week we were talking about Nikki Haley trying to like be like the sort of alternative to Ron DeSantis. And I think it's sort of similar to wokeness, where it's just sort of like, if you're a Republican, you can be like, yeah, we're anti-woke, but we're not annoying about it. And I think, honestly, like that's the appeal of Biden, like as a national Democratic figure, is that he's like, yeah, Jack, I am woke, but I don't know what any of it means. I just am woke. I don't know. I don't know what
it's
specifics are.
You
like,
could be woke without being a trembling, blue-haired social justice maniac. So you don't, because that is how they try to scare people. It's like, do you want to be like these people? And you imagine, I could never tell a joke, and I'm always tense. And then you watch Joe Biden just rolling in, completely zooted out of his gourd on some sort of a research chemical, glad handing everybody, singing Danny Boy. And it's like, hell yeah, I'm woke. What's the problem?
I am very glad that we're in this position where Nikki Haley, I don't see her winning this cycle, because it would just... It would kind of be like the Giuliani presidency that people feared. That's what I think it would be like. It would be horrifying. It would be foreign adventure after foreign adventure. But I wouldn't say I feel bad for her, but it is like, in more normal conditions, you could see her having a real path here.
Yeah.
Because she has identified that exact thing, that exact middle ground of wokeness or anti-wokeness versus being annoying and not being annoying. But again, it's not 1996, unfortunately for DeSantis, and it is not 2008 or 2012. So she has no path. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Democratic backbench is horrible. There aren't a lot of hot prospects, but holy shit, are there no prospects for the Republicans either?
That's true. That is true.
And like, I mean,
really
I
think
think
the end of this party cycle.
I hope they just keep running increasingly old candidates against each other. I hope fucking 2032 is Mo Brooks versus Barbara Mikulski. And it's the new most important election of our lifetime.
I got one. Biden doesn't run in 2024, and then we all nominate Dianne Feinstein instead.
Yeah.
Yes. It's her time.
It is her time.
Hey, she just got over shingles, so she's ready to go.
They took her cone off.
She emerged from the Harkonnen goo.
They took her cone off.
But no,
we got bad news. Like, Dianne Feinstein has eaten half a box of Frango chocolate. She shit all over the house. Click here to wish Dianne Feinstein a get well soon. Donate $3 to Act Blue right now.